Crick Buzz Centre Stage, Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan. Another day which has ended prematurely thanks to rain. The third day, we got 24.1 overs, some quite exciting cricket along the way. Australia lost 3 wickets, they added 50 runs, but it was England's morning.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think England started great. You know, that first 20-odd minutes, the ball a bit too short. Australia were playing quite nicely. I was surprised that England didn't use Chris Woakes straight away. The conditions were absolutely perfect. Very similar to that third day against Ireland when the lights were on. It was gloomy, low clouds. You thought, perfect for a Chris Woakes style bowler. He did come on, he bowled a couple of short ones, and then he got into his groove, and then that one that Archie got just nipped back down the slope to Cameron Bancroft. I have to be honest, I thought it was going over the top, but Hawkeye, he just kind of had it as umpires called, hitting the top of the stumps, and then England just got into the groove. They got into the length, they just nullified the ball with great simplicity. In conditions like we saw today, and probably what we'll see tomorrow, is you don't have to do a great deal. As a bowling team and a fielding unit, you just go simplicity, full of length, on and around off stump. The odd short, sharp ball, and you play the chord, and you start with 3 and 1. Play well, you take one out, put one to extra cover. You play the square leg, every now and again you put one on the boundary to get into the batsman's psycho. Just keep it dead simple. And just for a short period, I thought England got a little bit too funky. I thought it was too funky for the conditions. Just keep it simple. I'd expect them to do exactly what they did in that second hour tomorrow morning. If they do so, I still think that all results are possible. There's plenty of overs left.
Well, they made 30 runs at about 35 balls or something like that at the start, Australia. Usman Khawaja was doing his best David Gower impression there at one stage. But Archer bowling with a 4-5 field, which is quite unusual, did get Bancroft falling over the front of his front pad. You've seen Cameron Bancroft back quite a bit now. It is one of those technical deficiencies that people spend a lot of time talking about.
Well, Cameron's he's the new Shane Watson, isn't he? Just target that front pad, just get something to nip back. I'm surprised that he's come back into international cricket with what I would say a flawed technique from before. And that's not being, I just think if you go away and you analyse your game at stages in your career, and he had a 9-month period out of the game, he surely should have worked out that front foot's going far too over the offside and his head's following suit, and he plays across that front line. It all looks a little bit awkward. The ball that nips back's always a tough ball, but as an opening batsman at the highest level, I just think your technique's got to look after you when a ball does something, or you just misjudge length slightly, and that looks like a technique that's it's going to be questioned whenever the ball just does a little bit, or in your mind you don't quite pick up length quick enough. Your technique's got to look after you. I'm not too sure that technique is going to look after him. What I call on a dodgy day, when your mind's not quite operating, I don't see a technique in there that will look after him.
How tough is it to bat on days like this when you wake up and you look at your phone app and you realise it's going to rain and rain heavily? The psychology of batting on a morning when you really all you can do is survive?
Yeah, and it looked to me, I mean, once England got into that groove of bowling better, yeah, you'd say England bowled with better discipline and made it harder for Australia, but they were in that survival mode. There was a little bit of sprinkling of drizzle in the air. As a batsman, you're looking above going, oh, can't be long, it might be this over, it might be another over. And before you know it, you've got into lunch and you breathe a sigh of relief, go, well, we'll survive. I would expect Australia tomorrow to come out and just play with a little bit more positivity. Not reckless, but I think they'll be busier. So that scoreboard will probably tick over a little bit quicker than we saw in that second hour today. The game is on. 180 odd overs, with the way that players play Test cricket these days, is a lot of overs, particularly on a wicket like this that's just offering a little bit. If Australia can bat 60 overs tomorrow, that third innings of the match becomes a tricky one for England. If England get Smith out early, they could quite easily have a 100-run lead in the first innings, bat the 2 sessions to see out tomorrow day, arrive on Sunday, have a look at the scoring, around how many in front, how many can we kind of just dangle a carrot at Australia on Sunday, when I believe the conditions are going to be pretty good. So all results still possible.
In terms of Stephen Smith, he came out today and looked comfortable, as you'd expect given the form that he's in, but they did dry him up quite nicely. Likewise, Matthew Wade, 23 balls at the crease. Yes, he was given out to Ben Stokes from a ball pitching outside the leg stump, but he looked pretty much at ease from the get-go. How much better is he as a cricketer to the last time you saw him a few years ago?
He looks a player. He played 2 drives through the offside that, tomorrow morning he plays, I'm sure he'll get 2 boundaries, 2 diving stops. Balance and compactness with his hands. His hands are in tight, and you can see just his noodles on the onside. He could have easily had a couple of singles. It didn't go into the gap, but his defence, leaving of the ball. I just think in these conditions, at this level, it's like the most important shot is the leave. And the leave is knowing exactly where your off stump is. You've got to know where your off stump is, so you can say to a bowler, all right, if you keep bowling that far, I know where my off stump is, see ya, goes through to the keeper. A bowler isn't going to stay there all day. And then a bowler comes a bit straight and you play with balance, you go, thank you very much, and you work it on the onside. Wade looks to me like he's in the right mindset, and he's got a nice compact technique, and he's busy. You know, I talked about Australia just being a little bit more busy tomorrow. I think his style of play, England will have to dislodge quickly, because if he's there after 30, 40, 50 minutes, I'm pretty sure that scoreboard will start to read 100, 120, 130, 150, and before you know it, England start thinking, wait a minute, they're getting too close to that 258. That third innings of the match, the closer that Australia get, becomes a real nervous one for England. England need a 100-run lead.
I neglected to mention that Stuart Broad, lovely piece of bowling, picked up Travis Head through again. It wasn't a hard decision to make. Somehow it was made wrong by the umpire, but we're getting used to that in this series so far. Last but not least, Stephen Smith. You mentioned it before, you touched on it. It feels like we repeat ourselves. The whole game seems to hinge on how long Smith bats for. Minutes, hours, sessions. We've got 98 overs available on Saturday and on Sunday. If Smith bats for half of them or a third of them or fewer than that, who's to know? It could all come down to this.
Dad, if Smith's still there at 12 o'clock tomorrow morning, I think Australia have a great chance of putting England under a huge amount of pressure. England have got to get him in the first hour. I thought his batting today, I mean, Edgbaston was great. You know, he played great shots, and there was a real skill to the way that he operated the game at Edgbaston. This was even better because the ball was doing all sorts. And he's got that leave, and he swivels around, and then he flicks one on the onside, and then he got that pull shot away. Dead simple for England. I'm not too sure how you do it, but get him out before 12 o'clock tomorrow. I think they can win the Test match. If he's still there at 12:01, could be problems.
Speaking of getting out, it's going to start raining again any moment. I can feel the drops getting heavier. Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan, Crick Buzz centre stage. Hopefully it's a dry weekend and a riveting finish to this second Ashes Test match. Talk to you then.